What's going on, everybody? This is 13 with Superior Mobile by 13, and today we've got Chris's 2019 Ford F-150 Raptor back in the shop for Phase 2 of absolutely insane lighting upgrades. In Phase 1, I did the headlights, the grille lighting, and the stepboard lighting, all in addressable RGB products. There will be a link in the video description, so if you'd like to go watch that video, you can see that. So although in a lot of the animations that I'm going to show later, I'm going to have all of the products active, this video is primarily in reference to the wheel ring installations and the wheel well lighting installation that I did this round, again in RGB addressable products. Most specifically, I want to cover what I did, why I did it, and why I'll never do it again. So let's get into it. What I did in the wheel well lighting. So he originally had some really poopy little Oracle rock lights in here. I did the double row addressable strips from Lighting Trendz. Now these double row strips are wheel ring kits. Okay, so these are not sold as strips. It's basically the strips for a wheel ring kit. The way that I use these is I take off the original connector and then I cut down to the soldering pads and I solder on 18 gauge wire for the power input, the data input, and the data output. I'm not using the power out, I'm only using the data out on that. Now the primary reason I did this is because I'd never used double row LED kits before, and I am going to tell you right now that these are absolute data killing products. You can use an entire strip all on its own and that's perfectly fine, but the second you take one of these strips and cut it in half and try and send data down to that next wheel well, you are gonna have a bad time. What I really like about using these strips instead of a rock light is that you can really diffuse the light pattern and it makes it look so much cleaner. Also, obviously, it's addressable, so we can have animations going through the wheel well rather than just a single static color. So in my opinion, this is far superior. If I was to do this again, I would not use double row kits. I would sooner use single row kits, which I think have been plenty bright enough for underglow applications in the past. But if I had a particular client that wanted some extra oomph to it, then I would just run 2 rows of single row kits so that I could run appropriately gauged wire. Okay, now I'm on the passenger rear and you can see how even of a light distribution that is. That's on the pure white mode. Now here's the deal. Right now it's working great. The entire strip is light up, but the thing is white is the highest current consuming mode that you can possibly do on a RGB strip. And so what happens is as the battery simmers down just a little bit, if it's anything less than a perfectly full charge, I'll start to have flickering issues right at the end of the rear strips. Now it's really not a voltage issue. What it is it's a data issue. And the way that I tried to circumvent that is I ran 12 gauge wire from the BlueGhozt controllers to that strip, out of that strip, and all the way back here, all 12 gauge power ground and data. That is insanely excessive. However, it made it work 99% of the time. I found that if I did not keep the truck on a trickle charger and keep that battery in total optimum condition, then it would start to do a flicker, which basically means that's good enough for 99% of usage as long as he doesn't try and do a solid white parking lot pimp for a really long period of time without running his engine. Now I'm just throwing it on hyperspectral, which is just kind of the famous one. You can see this is the type of animation that I'm talking about that can only be accomplished with strips, and it's far, far superior to a rock light installation. Okay, next up, let's talk about the wheel ring installation. I've done wheel rings before, but never like this. These are, again, the double row addressable RGB LED products in there. These are 22-inch wheels, which for the record, let's take a second to appreciate how absolutely gorgeous these 2-piece forged wheels are. You see that? That's actually a separate piece in there. At first glance, I was like, oh yeah, just normal truck wheels. But then I looked up close at the detail and the craftsmanship and how they were manufactured. I'm in love with them. But anyway, let's talk about the wheel ring install because that's what I did. So these are 22-inch wheels and this has a super tiny gap. We got about a 1/2 inch clearance all the way around the ring. So I had to be extremely careful with how perfectly of a round circle that I created and making sure that that gapping was perfect all the way around. What I love about that being a super tiny gap is that you're not seeing the LED strip. What you're seeing is just radiance of light without seeing the strip because the strip is so darn close to the wheel. Also, the wheel is that machined silver. It's not a matte black surface like the majority of aftermarket wheels, so that really makes it shine and makes it look so good. For this wheel ring installation, I removed the wheels, the rotors, and the brake calipers to get full access to the dust shield. So I have 4 brackets, each holding on each ring, and they are nut and bolted. So they are using stainless steel hardware. It's so much more work to do it that way, but it is worth it. And this truck definitely is not one that I want to cut corners on. Back to that nonsense conversation about double row strips are absolute data killers. So I did a data in here and a data out there and ran it back there. I tried the 12 gauge approach and it managed to work mostly on the back right wheel on the passenger side, but when it came to the driver's side back wheel, that wire run all the way to the controller up under the hood on the other side was simply too long, and I could not get that one to reliably perform even on animations. And the back right one, the passenger side, struggled just with pure white mode. So maybe doing double single row strips around there, again to preserve the data to feed in there, would have been a successful solution. But ultimately what I ended up doing, because we have double row strips, is I had to use another BlueGhozt module to control the rears independently from the front. Ultimately, I was trying not to waste the client's money on product, but rather just better installation practice. But the 12 gauge wire, even on the data line, was not sufficient. I have now learned my lesson. I am not in love with double row. It's my first and last time using it like this for sure, because they just simply can't be daisy chained reliably. Okay, enough talk. Let me actually show them off in action. So I'm just putting them on static color just so you can see the installation details itself. You don't really see the direct light shining in your face. It's more of a reflection off of the wheel itself, so it gives a really great glow. And I don't know if there's really going to be a situation in which he wants his front wheel rings controlled separately from the rears, but they are separately controlled, so I can have blue on the rear and red on the front, for example. So we can take them both, we can sync them together via the BlueGhozt app, and we can throw them on any sort of mode. The primary reason I wanted to use BlueGhozt is because then I can program these to actually do a side swipe. With the standard controller, it does a chase around. That's all it does. However, the big deal that I wanted is to be able to control the fronts separately from the rears. Now, if I could get them both on one controller, I'd be able to do that just by having them daisy chained together, but that wasn't possible because of that voltage drop, because again, double row RGB LEDs are data killers. So I accomplished the same result by using two different controllers. Now, the reason that that was so important to me is because I still have these addressable LEDs under these step boards, and so I can have an animation go across all of that and then through this one. So this is such a cool effect, one that really is very, very difficult, if not impossible, to accomplish with any other method. And this was my vision that I had, that I just had to see through, and I wasn't necessarily sure how it was going to play out, and it turned out it was a major nightmare. I did about 12 hours of labor for free troubleshooting this system until finally I just had to give him another Ghost module so that we could control these rears, and that solved all of the problems, and it was wonderful. Almost forgot that there are still the startup and shutdown animation modes that are synced in with all the other things, so I just set them the way that he had it, which is a white chase pattern. So when you open the door, which turns on the parking lights, you get all of that animation that does it just like with everything else. And then when it times out, the lights are going to turn off, and you're going to get an animation for the turn off as well. And these are just wired into the parking lights, so basically he can control this anytime that he wants. And here's the full truck with the animations. So what I'm going to end up doing now is cutting over to some footage from last night that I recorded in the parking lot. And then after that, I'm going to have to overlay a bunch of video that I recorded with my cell phone. This is my favorite vehicle I have ever done. Right now I've got every zone doing a different thing, so it's just utter chaos right now. And this camera just can absolutely not capture the beauty of what's going on with this install. I've got rear wheel rings, front wheel rings, the fender wells, I have underglow on the running boards, I have headlights, and I have grille lighting. That's how many zones of control I have right now, and I have them all running separately. And now I'm gonna sync them all together, because that is the real magic. The grille feeds into the headlights, which feeds into the upper section of the wheel well and the wheel ring. We have the running boards, and then the same goes for back here as it goes over it and inside of the wheel, just right across. As you can see, it feeds across. It's so smooth and so beautiful. This one definitely shows it off a little bit easier, at least for this camera to pick up, as you can see that it will just scan across all of the different zones and products and go one into the next one. It's just so cool. This is definitely a milestone build for me. This was extremely challenging and so incredibly worth it, but it's just so cool. Everything works. Oh my god, it works. Yes. This is his driving mode, which is in all white. As you can see, it's just insanely bright. There's a lot of light output coming off of it. Grille, headlights. The headlights are not on right now. That's just the running light. The little, I don't know what you call that, the E-bar or something, the C-lamp. And then the wheel wells and the wheel rings and the underglow of the step boards. Just, oh my god, I am just so in love with this. He apparently really likes white for his turn signals, but you can see the grille does a sequential chase across, the headlight does a chase across, the amber is the OEM LED. I just set up the wheel rings and the running board here, so the wheel rings, the wheel wells, and the running boards all do a bubble pattern, so they chase out and then back. As you can see, I did that in amber, but he's probably going to change it to white. But my goodness, I love this. Absolutely love it. I also wired it all up into the brake, so of course everything goes red, at least as far as underneath the car and inside the wheel rings. Those all go red when you press the brake. Okay, we are switching over to cell phone footage now, and you can see this is the orbit functionality. So it is going through the headlights, through the grille, through the wheel rings, through the wheel wells, and through the running boards, chasing around the vehicle. Round and round we go. Super cool stuff. Then next up we have a full color fade, which is going through all of the products. Full rainbow spectrum of fun. And then this is hyperspectral. I misspoke earlier when I called another feature hyperspectral. This is hyperspectral, which bounces back and forth, but it's a cool little rainbow menagerie that just kind of bounces back and forth. Then we have epileptic seizure mode, which is super popular. I personally like the way this thing looks because it really is bright. Causes a lot of chaos. It's cool. This one is, I don't know, it's a basic one. It's just color bars. They're chasing down. But what I really like about this one is it shows how all of the products are synced together. It's just a really good dramatic effect. And this one is bouncy bouncies. So bright lights. People like bright lights. Obviously, if this is the type of setup you're looking for, this is the type of result that you want. This one is actually everything's running different modes, so I'd just call this kind of chaos. To be honest, I don't really think it looks that great, but it is just showcasing that you can control everything independently, and that's the point. And then this one just looks really cool because it is just sending colors down the line. And again, without this specific combination of products, this is pretty much impossible to do with anything else. It's pretty rad. My goodness, I hope you guys enjoyed this build as much as I enjoyed creating it. I am so super stoked on this thing. It is my Mona Lisa. Please be aware, product and pricing information for this phase will be in the video description. So if you have any questions about how much this costs or what I'm using, again, refer to the video description. That pricing will be only for this phase. If you're interested in the previous phase of the grille, headlights, and stepboards, then refer to the other video for that information. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you really liked the video and if you like my work, be sure to click the like thing. It makes me happy. Again, thank you so much for watching. This is 13 with Superior Mobile by 13. I shall talk to you later. See ya!